Congress of Nigerian University Academics says the moves to harmonize CONWA and the Academic Staff Union of Universities are untrue. National Security Advisor Nuhu Ribadu says the security situation in the southeast region has improved. Mass public protest imminent over concerns of naira shortage. Details coming up shortly. Right, welcome back. I am Omohefe Peace Osemere. The Congress of Nigerian University Academics has said it is not in reconciliation talks with the Academic Staff Union of Universities. Now, this is in reaction to a statement by the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University, Oye-Ekiti State, Professor Abayomi Fashino, who said some elders in academics were working to unite the Academic Staff Union of Universities and its breakaway faction, CONWA. But CONWA President Niyi Somonu, in a statement, said no such reconciliation move between CONWA and ASU. Former Governor of Ekiti State, Dr. Kayode Fayemi, has urged President Bola Tinubu to look beyond the presidential villa for feedback on the performance of his administration. Dr. Kayode stated this in Abuja at the public presentation of a book titled APC and Transition Politics, written by former National Vice Chairman, Northwest of the All Progressives Congress, Malam Salihu Lukman. According to him, it was often difficult for occupiers of the presidential villa and the other public holders to know the true feelings of Nigerians because they were often surrounded by praise singers. He further charged the national chairman of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, not to fail in his duty to tell the president the truth at all times. Now, the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, says the security situation in the southeast region of the country has improved compared to what it was before President Bola Tinubu came into office. According to a statement, Ribadu spoke at the inauguration of the Enugu Zonal Office of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. According to him, days when people were forced to stay indoors for the fear of being attacked were over in the southeast. Coming up, bank customers groan over inability to access cash to meet daily needs. Details after this break. Right, welcome back. You are watching News Analysis live on PNB TV. News revelations by the Debt Management Office shows that the total domestic debt stock may have risen by 133.95% to 51.96 trillion naira as at the end of 2023. Director General of the Debt Management Office, Patience Oniha, while speaking on the sidelines of the discussions for the establishment of the African Debt Managers Initiative Network, spearheaded by the African Development Institute of the African Development Bank in Abuja, disclosed that the federal government had raised 7.04 trillion naira as a total new domestic borrowing in 2023. Now, with just 5 days away from Christmas, the Nigeria Labour Congress has warned of a mass protest. The warning is in view of the lingering cash scarcity in the country. According to a statement by its national president, Joe Ajaero, the situation has serious implications for citizens, insisting that urgent steps must be taken to address it. There are reports that bank customers have been groaning over their inability to access cash to meet daily needs despite assurances from the Central Bank of Nigeria. According to a national daily, banks have continued to ration cash over the counter while many ATMs are not dispensing cash. However, NLC in the statement warned the federal government and the Central Bank of Nigeria that a mass public protest was imminent if nothing was done to address the naira shortage. Joining us now to discuss this and of course related issues as far as the subject matter is concerned is a political economist, Aliyu Ilyas. He joins us live in the studios this afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us, Aliyu.
Thank you for having me.
Right. First of all, I would like to start by asking you how you've been, coping with the naira scarcity.
So saddening and appalling. I could remember vividly yesterday I tried to withdraw the sum of 10,000 naira, and the point of sales person says that I cannot get it at the usual 200 naira that I have to pay. Is it 600 naira? I have to keep appealing to him that could you please make it 500, and before he eventually asks for it. For if you look at now what you are trading off to get your money is becoming a problem, and it's quite saddening at this point in time that you go to ATM, you cannot get money to withdraw. You go to bank, they ration what you can collect. Then this is bringing a lot of problem. Having on the understanding that we have issue of purchasing power. Now the little one that we have again is being eroded by this issue of unavailability of naira. It's quite sad, and I think this is the point at which we want to really justify and see how effective this current CBN is doing. Well,
one would say that history is obviously repeating itself. However, right, the CBN had assured that we have enough, currency in circulation. But what is going on, or the reality on ground, obviously contradicts, the comments made by the CBN. Who is to take this blame? Is it the Central Bank of Nigeria, or the commercial banks?
Right. Thank you so much. I think the first person to take responsibility is Central Bank of Nigeria, led by Yemi Cardoso, because you agree with me that this thing has been happening. However, there's a as at last year December, if you recall, that is what we actually went through. It's very, very sad. So right, the thing is that they must have seen what is going on. Now I just read through what the spokesperson of CBN said, that they have increased from 1 trillion to 3.1 trillion in the economy. So if 3.1 trillion is in the economy, and the commercial bank says, money deposit bank in particular says, they went to central bank to collect money and it was not available. So it simply means the CBN. And apart from that, again, I think CBN should get a mechanism that they can use to really get that. One, CBN can introduce what we call mystery shoppers. Mystery shoppers will go around to money deposit bank and see how effective they are doing. Perhaps, if you also go to the Bureau de Change, you see that even they are also complaining that there is no availability of naira. So if you ask me, I think it's problem of CBN should be, at this point in time, should be able to justify how much in circulation, put out policy and strategy that will make people get the money. And you won't blame Nigerians. If I have some money cash now, it will be pretty difficult for me to take it to bank. Simply because I will recall what I experienced last year, and I wouldn't want to trade off such.
Before we delve, into that in details. Well, of course, you recall that last year, with this controversy of naira scarcity and all of that, when commercial banks came up with stories that, oh no, we don't have enough, of the new notes, that were redesigned last year in our possession, the CBN had to set up some sort of inquiry committee to go around these banks, and of course it was made public that these monies were actually hoarded. So should that be the case at this point in time?
Well, I don't think there is even holding,
because the CBN is saying there's enough cash in circulation.
I wouldn't want to believe there is holding.
The deposit money banks are saying no.
I wouldn't want to agree with that, because now you recall that CBN has actually failed under Emefiele. I can say that simply because you told us that you recall that President Muhammadu Buhari himself came out and said it's only 200 naira that will be available for the old, and the new will be 500 and 1,000 respectively. But watch it everywhere now. You can't even find the new naira note. So that means there is no adequate naira note being produced already. That's the problem. Perhaps they must have even shredded some money.
Is that the case, or this monies were mopped up?
No, I can't believe it's mopped up, because if you look at the gap, that's about 10 months gap. It does not reflect that there is enough money that was printed. So if you had printed enough money that time, and we have old money working pari passu together, so there wouldn't have been problem of cash crunch. So it simply means that there is not enough naira, then if there is even what we call holding as well, whose responsibility is to make sure that the money is still their responsibility. And that's why I wouldn't want this currency bank to be giving us excuse. You remember, even as bad as we could say about the past administration in terms of CBN handlers, you also see that they also bring about e-naira. Now you have dumped that e-naira, you have dumped all those areas. You must work on those things, because you can't say zero to all what your predecessors are saying. You have to take it.
The e-naira scheme has died a natural death.
Right, and that's the problem we are suffering now, because you can't tell me that if Nigerian civil servants are being paid with e-naira, remember, it will trickle down to who will buy from them, and before you know, we engage in using it. So there must be a strategy. You know, you don't just bring a strategy or a policy, you must also work on the enablers that will make it work. So the enablers remain the major important things that you must put in place at every point in time.
All right, let me, take you by your words. You said with the cash you have, in your possession at this point in time, you are even skeptical about going to even deposit this money in the bank, because you don't want to go through, the same stress you went through to even access this money. So again, it tells you, one thing, that the financial inclusion, drive, I mean, the effort the government has actually put into this all these years is about to go down the drain. Right.
I wouldn't say the financial inclusion is bad, because if you go to a lot of places, there is POS. Remember, when you say financial inclusion, that means availability of naira in the circulation. Right, go to the core area. There is no way you go in Nigeria you not see a point of sales operation, POS. Right, there is no anybody that cannot do little transfer, because if you even remember, that's why we must also not say this even the past even has done bad as well. They have introduced where you can use USSD to send money. That's financial inclusion. But the problem is that there is no availability of naira. They are two different things. Financial inclusion and availability of naira is just two different things. And like I said, as individual, if I expended 500 naira to get a sum of 10,000 naira, and you are telling me that the little I have I should take it to bank, naturally I would think, let me keep this. We didn't know if the worst will actually happen. And also, do you know what I expect from CBN? By now, CBN should come to this your beautiful platform and scroll down and said there is no naira is available. No, they should find way of telling the public that it is quite available. You know, that education itself, it's very, very key. So you must be able to educate Nigerians and said, don't be in a rush, don't be in panic. There's availability of naira. That's how it should be.
Right. While you want to applaud the former CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, for introducing some policies
like USSD,
of course, but
financial inclusion.
At the same time, the operation of POS, officers across the country, don't you think it needs to be reviewed? Well, the way they carry out their activities.
Reviewing it does not mean they should reduce the money circulation, right? You recall that even that period that there was cash crunch, it's a serious issue that most POS went out of business. So reviewing them is not a problem. You can't do without them, and those are the stakeholders, and that's why they want to bring new naira that time. You are supposed to engage stakeholders. You are hearing the Minister of Finance said, I'm not aware there will be a change of currency redesign. No, that's a serious problem. So that means they did not take proper, they didn't take the stakeholders, and POS, they are critical stakeholder, because you go to my community, down my village, it's only POS you can see. You cannot find a bank. That's our bank. So our bank should be strengthened. So the problem is not that financial inclusion is not there. There is no availability of naira. It's two different things, please. All
right. Well, you're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV, and I have Aliu Elias right here in the studios, a political economist, to discuss government's efforts to drive financial inclusion in line with the reality on ground. Of course, he says having POS operators, in almost every nook and cranny of the country has been more of an advantage to, the citizens. But again, POS, is it a point of sale?
Point of sale is correct, yes.
Right, but it looks like the POS operators are now the option B when it comes to the automated teller machine. But anyways, we'll take a quick break. When we return, the conversation will continue. Do join us again. Right, welcome back. You're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business Television. And yes, we're discussing the Naira scarcity as Nigerians are finding it difficult, to cope with the harsh reality on ground. And of course, we know that we're 5 days away from Christmas. How are Nigerians going to cope? Let me quickly bring in my second guest, who just walked in a while ago. He is also an economist, Malam Yusha Aliyu. Thank you so much for joining us on News Analysis.
Thank you and good morning.
It's good afternoon.
Oh, sorry, it's afternoon.
Right, it's afternoon.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. Right, of course, before you walked in, Aliyu Ilyas, who is, also an economist, he tried to help us get sense of, the government's efforts to drive financial inclusion as to whether or not the reality on ground is going to have some sort of effect, on, government's effort to drive financial inclusion. To bring you in quickly, let's talk about, NLC, because, of course, they are at it again. They have, warned the federal government that, look, if you do not do anything as soon as possible, there's going to be mass protest. And we know, of course, that Christmas is just 5 days away. What are your thoughts?
My thought goes to sometimes political commitment requires political sincerity. There has been this agitation some weeks back, and it has come to a resolution that certain pressures put by the NLC has to be stopped and then looked into. But I think beyond that, it is a good time for policymakers to understand that in trying to present an appropriation act which is before the National Assembly, meaning that the fiscal year is just about to start, there is need to have a very conducive business environment, and you cannot have that environment where you have agitation and counter protests or accusations or mistrust. These are not necessary for a good economic environment. However, the NLC itself has to also understand that if it is a war, it has been already against poor people of Nigeria. Subsidy has been removed, and there is no much palliative. We have discovered that even the World Bank has attested that very few individuals were able to access because of certain inefficiencies that involve the system, from the record, including the contribution of many political stakeholders to arrange environment.
Right. So, do you think this warning coming from NLC would have any bite on the situation on ground?
It's already a very disturbing situation if you take the working class, because the working class are expecting agreed palliatives to be paid to them, and it is expected that most of the savings made for the year is about to be spent. So we are expecting not just a rise in spending, but we're expecting inflation to also rise. Besides that one also, we are hoping that the scenario is going to be contained, because nobody will be happy to have an economy that is facing so much of agitation and challenges.
Well, from your own perspective, do you think the CBN, that's the apex bank, should be blamed for this Naira scarcity? Because this is not the first time we're having this situation to contend with.
You see, there is no way you remove central bank, because it's the issuance of the legal tender, and we have discussed several times that it is high time also for the central bank to understand the cash-based economic system that we are operating. Our economy is not like Chinese economy. Even the elite, they are the ones keeping cash at home. It is not expected to be playing when you are facing a digital economy that is transformed. However, the central bank also must also have to understand that it is not just controlling cash liquidity in the market that will stop inflation. There are orthodox motives, and there are also unorthodox motives in controlling this inflation. There is need to understand that our market structures at local level cannot be managed without cash availability.
But let me bring in Aliyu Ilyas one more time. Do you think this is a deliberate, attempt to ensure this cashless society, a trend?
Well, I don't want to agree that it's intentional, or that is what is playing out, because as Central Bank of Nigeria, I think they should own up if they are the one actually controlling this, not to have enough liquidity in the society. However, like I said, now if you want us to go digital or in operating, how have you managed the e-naira? No, that's what we need to look at, our own local way of platform to manage money. So for me, I don't think they are doing this. The thing is that they don't have a total grip of how much we have in the society. Because if asked them, they say they have 3.1 trillion in the society. Is that what we actually need for liquidity? Because you remember, MSME and small businesses need cash day to day. Like I was relating my experience to you yesterday. To get 10,000, I have to trade off 500 naira. So imagine if all my capital is 10,000 naira, you know, and I want to get that money to go and get another goods to sell. I must have trade off how many percentage? So if I do that 5 times in 5 days, what do you think has happened to me? I've actually lost the profit. So they have to sit down and look at it. Perhaps if it's not intentional, they should engage a mystery shopper. Let the shopper go to bank and see how bank is managed, because bank has Money Deposit Bank this time around has came out and said there is no enough cash to give the customers. So it simply means it's CBN. So it's either they are doing it, you know, to really reduce the money in the society, which is quite wrong at this point in time. Perhaps a very vibrant and responsive CBN should have just come on board and start a jingle, an advert and educate society. Don't rush to get more money to keep in your house. There's availability of a naira. Yeah. We don't have issue in terms of cash, but they're not doing that education. They're not saying anything. Perhaps this keep continue and is getting deeper in society. Right,
Malam Yushaliu, I do not know how convenient it has been for you to, you know, access cash, you know, in recent times. But would it be intelligent to say that for Nigerians who already adopted a traditional way of, you know, saving money, they are the ones just enjoying the moment right now?
First of all, conveniently accessing cash. I had to pay 400 naira yesterday to get 20,000 naira. So like what?
Isn't that fair?
That's the normal trade.
Of course.
Yes.
Because 5,000 naira.
Because I trade off 500 for 10,000.
You have to pay 100 naira to get 5,000.
Yes. By application, POS are not meant to be cash points. They are never cash points. They are just to facilitate transaction. So but obviously now, because of the challenges and that is what we want the central bank to understand. Since Nigerian economic environment understood that we can make use of POS as a cash point, then definitely the bank should also understand the liquidity that is required. That has been even my contention for a very long period of time. Take for instance the market days operations in different parts of this country. Take also the volume of transaction that is taking place. Take also the convenience that is attached to every single transaction. But however, what we are hoping the central bank is that don't just rely on M1, M2, M3 principle based on conventional provisions. We have local market which is contributing to our GDP locally. So if that local community is contributing to our GDP growth rate, then definitely the convenience of that sector must be looked into. Not the convenience is not just to facilitate transaction, but to keep business. Because if you are not keeping business, like rightly pointed out by Mr. Aliu, how can you, for instance, pay 500 naira for 10,000? For the first day, and then the second day you pay, then obviously you are now translating all the benefits to another unknown transaction, and that is the invisible hand that Adam Smith has been calling the attention of policymakers that at any point in time, nowhere taxes are going, nowhere profits are going.
Well, indeed, there's so much to talk about with a lot to take in. And for one to spend more than 100 naira to get 5,000 naira is really a lot to contend with at this point in time. Of course, we know that, you know, purchasing power already has been eroded. Nigerians are actually, you know, dealing with a lot, you know, of course, because of the many policies that have been introduced since this administration came into office. Well, gentlemen, do you see an end in sight to this cash scarcity?
Right. Looking at this period we are, which is December, it's always a challenging period that everybody needs cash, and inflation always have the way of increasing and what have you. So I think they must have captured this even before now. That is what we talk about responsiveness. However, I think they should go ahead, go to the market, I mean go to the money deposit bank and ensure that they do the needful, because doing the needful is what will solve it. Because if this eventually roll into 2024, it's going to have an impact on the 2024 budget, right? Simply because you have projected 18.5 trillion as revenue, and if things doesn't go well, because this MSME employs about 85% of Nigeria workers, so if you don't manage them very well, it's going to show in 2024.
Right.
Budget.
Thank you very much, Aliyu Elias. Well, Malam Yusha Aliyu, what do you have to say?
What I would say is that it is high time for the bank to understand the peak period of cash requirement, and that what I try to say here is that the bank should understand the peak period at which supply of liquidity must be available to contain pressures and contain inefficiencies in our economy. December period to January period can be a period where you pump in and control, and probably very much April you can now make withdrawal. There are tactical ways which you are using different instruments to make liquidity available for efficiency in the economy.
Right, thank you very much. We must have the conversation here now because of time. An economist, Malam Yusha Aliyu, and also a political economist, Aliyu Elias. Thank you so much for your time and analysis on the show this afternoon.
Thank you for
right. In a whole, it looks like Nigerians may still have to exercise a little bit of patience, because it is not even certain if this cash scarcity will be a thing of the past in the days to come. Also, one of my guests already called on the Central Bank of Nigeria that if at all this is a deliberate attempt, you know, to ensure a cashless society, some sort of jingles and sensitization should also be enabled. Thank you for watching. I am Omoefe Peace Osemere, and do not forget you can follow us across social media platforms at PNB TV. Good afternoon.